All right, cool. We're looking about ready to go.
I think we're all set here.
All right, cool. Let me get out your way.
All right, you take it. Oh, shit. Dude, you all right? Ouch! You want me to call somebody?
No, just finish the episode and we'll throw it up later.
Welcome to Konstantly Kaotic, the show where we talk about a little bit of everything and a lot of nothing. I'm your host, Kaotic Keith, and I have to start the show by addressing the obvious pink elephant, the thing that is missing. Anyone who is familiar at all with my work is used to seeing something here with me, and you're right, and I give you credit if you've noticed, my beard is missing. But don't worry, I'm going to grow it back. It just reached that point where it was getting too scraggly, uneven, and I had to do something to even it all out. When I ran that line to my producer, he seemed to think that you guys were going to think that I was talking about Kevin being the obvious thing missing. And, well, let's be honest, if I didn't tell you that Kevin wasn't here, would you have even noticed? He didn't exactly stand out. No, I'm just busting chops. He is one of my closest friends, and I wish him well. But one thing that did irk me about him on this show was the fact that he didn't really stand behind the things that he said. And I'm not going to go down the whole list, because I'm sure he kept it to himself for private reasons. But I'll just use Donald Trump as an example. He made it very clear that he hated our president and did not like him. I don't love him, but I certainly don't hate him either. And every time I tried to get that out of him on the show, and even at our job with our boss, who's also a Donald Trump fan, he would just say, I never said that I hated Donald Trump. What are you talking about? So, again, I wish him well in all of his future endeavors. He's a good guy, and who knows, maybe one day he'll decide to give it another go. But let's be honest, I was always the star of the show. Now, I want to try to do things a little differently because this is my first show by myself, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm not sure that this is going to work with me by myself, but I'd like to try a few things and see what works. I'd like to try to create a few regular segments, things to do, not necessarily every show, maybe not even every other show, because you don't want the whole show to be scripted, because the complete opposite of chaos is order, and we don't want too much order here. But what I want to do on this show is I'm going to have a little bit of a political discussion from someone who has no qualifications whatsoever to do it, but that pretty much is what America is, isn't it? A whole bunch of people who don't know what they're talking about, pretending that they know everything. I am an American, so it is my right to do that. And I'd like to debut a few little segments that I came up with. Don't know if they're going to be funny or not. If I make any money off of this at all, I don't care. But I'm going to draw from a hat some random topics. I'm going to pick maybe, we'll go with 7. 7 is considered the perfect number. I don't really know why. I think it's biblical. And I have to talk for at least 60 seconds about whatever I pull out of the hat, which could be difficult depending upon the topic, or could be easy. We will see. I have a personal peeve of mine that I would like to bring up that none of you are probably going to care about. But if any of you do, please leave it in the comments, because I need to find my brothers out there who know what I'm talking about. And I guess I'll start with just a random story about something that happened to me just earlier today at my job. If you remember from previous, I work for basically it's a shipping place that does office stuff, and we have mailboxes kind of like the post office. And some little Russian guy came in there, and he just looked mean. Looked like he had an attitude. And he talked like this. And he wanted to set up a mailbox, but he did not have the proper forms of ID that we accept in order to set up the mailbox. And he did not like that. Why do I need these things? And I'm trying to explain it to him, not sure if he really cares. And finally he just says, well, why when I called the other place, did they not tell me that I would need this? I have no idea what other place he was talking about. But I can tell you, it just reeks of a complete lack of common sense. Why would you call another place to find out what this place would take when you could just call this place to find out? So I can't say these things because as much as you now know how much I hate people, I am good at my job, and I kept smiling and maintained the best customer service that I could. And I simply explained to him I didn't know, he should check with them. And then he looks at me like with, I don't know, I want to say mob-like eyes. And he's like, well, I don't have that. What can we do? And I simply told him that I would not be able to set up his mailbox. And he got pissed. He left. And he did what a lot of people done. And I guarantee that some of you, if you're seeing this, have done this too. You aren't tough to wait until you get to the door and then talk shit and storm up. No one does it like right to your face. He waited till he got to the door and then turned around and said, you need to get your fucking shit together. This is ridiculous. And stormed off. I don't know how it would have played out if he said that to me standing right in front of me, but it's happened so many times before where I've had an issue or my coworker has had an issue, and they wait until they get to the door and they're safe to talk shit. If you've ever done this, you're probably a scumbag, entitled, whatever. But trust me, it doesn't work. And when you do it to someone like me in the service industry, we're just going to laugh at you because you don't hurt my feelings. You don't make me upset. You don't stand behind what you say. You lack the balls to say it to my face when I would have had time to actually respond to you. So that's that. All right. I would like to talk about politics for a little bit and what I think is coming for the 2020 election. I don't know if anybody watched a lot of the Democratic debates. I'm not going to lie and pretend that I did. Anyone who says that they watched the debates from start to finish is either a liar or a really huge fucking dork that we don't need to deal about. But I'm familiar with them. I've seen things online. I've watched clips. And I'm going to tell you, if you are a fan of the Democrats, you're probably not happy if you're actually intelligent enough to see what's happening. The Democratic Party is just all over itself, whereas the Republicans and the big bad evil Donald Trump seems to be leading the Republican Party with a very proud iron fist. The first debate that I watched, I kept clicking over, and maybe I clicked over to it like 3 times. And the first thing that I noticed was that all 3 times that I clicked over to it, whichever candidate was talking about Donald Trump. When all of the candidates are talking about him, you're giving him so much power that I don't even know if they realize that they're doing it. But you're constantly mentioning, you're constantly referencing him. You're talking about him being the thing to beat. You are making him look so much stronger than he actually is. You need to focus on what you want to do, what you're trying to accomplish, and stop comparing yourself to him, because you're almost guaranteeing that he wins by doing it that way. And the other debate that I saw, that was actually just a few days ago. I don't know when this is going to air, but it was, what's today, the 21st, so I guess the other debate was the 19th. And I have to say, Elizabeth Warren impressed me. I'm happy with her. I don't know if she has the ability to go all the way, or if she's going to end up being like another Sarah Palin that just starts off good and then fizzles out because people realize she's fucking nuts. But so far, if I'm going to get behind anybody, it probably would be her on the Democratic side. The way she went after Bloomberg was priceless. And even if she only did it to be talked about, it worked because people are talking about her. And I apologize, I can't give credit to whoever said this, but it was hilarious and it was true. Bloomberg spent a lot of money in order to be qualified for the Democratic debate. And I don't know exactly what his lack of qualification was that he had to spend so much money to do it. But whatever it was, someone pointed out, if you're having a bad day or you're feeling bad about yourself, just remember, Mayor Bloomberg spent $500 million just to look like a jackass on national television. Bernie Sanders is the other big guy on the Democratic side, and he's the only one. Like, I kind of like Warren. I don't like Bloomberg at all. But Sanders, I have mixed feelings about. Sometimes I like him, and sometimes I don't. I do like, though, that they pointed out that while he's standing there saying, we got to go after the millionaires, we got to go after the millionaires, he himself is a millionaire, and it kind of humbled him a little bit when that was pointed out to him. He says a lot of things that people want to hear, but I'm sorry, I don't think his big point is realistic, and that's eliminating student debt. I don't even know if that's a good idea. I paid off my student debt. It wasn't as high as other people's were because I got it early. Not to brag, but I got really good grades, so I had a pretty decent scholarship. But I think it hit about the maybe 10,000 mark. And some of you are laughing, 10,000, I wish. Listen, I don't know, but you know what you're getting into. You know what you agreed to. And to just have that bill wiped out, I think is unfair to the institutions that gave you the ride. And I think it sets a bad precedent because I think a lot of people are just going to say, oh, well, if I'm going to get my debt wiped out, I'll just keep going to school. I know it's not a popular way of looking at it, but at the end of the day, schools are businesses and they need money to run. And if all the people who owe them money is suddenly wiped out, I don't see how that's sustainable for them. And why are you going to want to run a college if you know that so many people are going to be able to just go for free because you weren't responsible enough to pay your bills? That's my 2 cents on it. And Trump, I honestly do believe, is going to win again. That's going to piss a lot of people off. I find it amazing that 4 years ago I thought that he didn't have a shot. And now I don't see him being beaten. And there are several reasons why. I took several political science courses in college, which I paid for. And I learned a lot in them. Not everything, probably not even half. There's so much about politics you don't understand. But historically speaking, incumbent presidents are favored. For whatever reason, people are used to him. Even if they say they don't like him, just the fact that he's been in office, people tend to be more comfortable with the incumbent president and vote him in. And another thing is, whenever a president is impeached and then acquitted, his approval rating tends to go right up. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because people feel sorry for him that he was impeached for something that they eventually decide he didn't do. But for whatever the reason, impeached presidents typically soar in popularity once they're acquitted. And between that and everything that's going on right now in the Democratic Party, I mean, they are going after each other. I just don't see how he can lose at this point. And I don't completely know how I feel about that. I'd like to see somebody challenge Trump on the issues that he's lacking, but I don't see that happening. And I figure this is a good time to discuss President Trump because I get a lot of flack because if you say one nice thing about Donald Trump, people immediately start calling you a Trumper. And I think that that's not fair. And when you do stuff like that, you're actually giving credence to all the stuff that Donald Trump says about fake media, this, that. You can say you don't think that he's a bad president and not want to suck him off and not think that he's the best president ever lived. And like I think I talked about it on a previous episode of this, where there was a woman who simply told her friends that she didn't hate Donald Trump. She wasn't sure that he was the worst president ever. And these people stopped talking to her. I suppose it's possible that this woman was just fucking nuts and senile or whatever, but I've dealt with her many times. I don't think that she's insane, so she was probably telling the truth. And I think that's sad. So how I feel about Donald Trump is, I he wasn't my first choice, I'll tell you that. But I said for many, many years that what this country needed was someone who was not a career politician, possibly a businessman, to take office. You know, President Obama, I don't have any particular hate for him. You know, diehard Republicans hated him just because he was a Democrat and black. And again, I don't think that's fair either. I feel like President Obama was probably a decent guy, the kind of person you could sit down and have a conversation with. But it's just not something that you need to hold someone accountable for just because they're not the particular person that you want them to be. But what I was saying is that just because you don't think that Donald Trump necessarily is the worst president in the world doesn't mean that you also love him. And President Obama was big on change. That was his slogan when he was running, change. And yes, it was a change in the sense that he was the first African American president, but he's still just a person no matter what his skin color is, and he is a career politician. So like it or not, he was more of the same. You want real change, you have to do something different. You have to stir the pot. And Donald Trump was the only way you were going to get real change, to throw someone who was not a career politician into the White House. Again, he was not my first choice. I think he would have been better in an advisory role, or the treasurer, or something to that effect, and not the president. Or even if he was the president, to have some kind of translator so that he was not, you know, just saying everything that he says, which sometimes sounds like it's coming from his ass. But whatever, he was the choice that we had, and I don't hate him. I can tell you personally, I don't make a lot at my job, and I don't like the fact that the phone is ringing while I'm talking. You should edit that out. But I didn't have health insurance for a time, and maybe it's just a crazy coincidence, but as soon as Donald Trump became the president, the first time coming up that you can enroll in the online marketplace, the price dropped significantly for me, and I was actually able to get health insurance and start seeing doctors. You know, I get tests that I hadn't gotten tested in a while. I have a few issues with my stomach that, you know, suck to deal with, but I was told I wasn't about to keel over, and that was nice. And I only got that because I got health insurance, and I have to believe it had something to do with Donald Trump. I'm constantly hearing about how the economy's doing better, the stock market's going up. Unfortunately, that carried over to Amazon and Jeff Bezos, and his stock apparently went through the roof. Not real happy about that, but, you know, the rich get richer. But Donald Trump has a few main issues that I disagree with, and it stops me from being completely behind him. For one, number one, I don't like the way he talks. I'm okay with him being on Twitter to an extent, but he talks down too much, he's too condescending, and he doesn't exhibit certain qualities that you would expect the president to exhibit. Two, global warming is a big thing. I don't understand how anyone of sane mind can claim that global warming doesn't exist. And a lot of Republicans are like that. This isn't just a Donald Trump thing. But something is going on, and he clearly doesn't understand the science. And it's fine if you say, I don't get it, and you're honest about it, but he acts like he knows everything. I saw a video of him talking about wind power and how people wanted to try to use wind power to cut down on, you know, our carbon footprint on the earth. And he, in a very mocking tone, who clearly didn't understand how wind power works, painted a scenario where him and his wife, they couldn't watch TV tonight because there was no wind. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's funny, not for the reason why Trump wanted it to be funny, because of how stupid he looks. And again, it's worth watching if you haven't seen it. But they need to look at it and figure out what's going on, and at least try to help. And another big thing is this is controversial, abortion. I myself am not a big fan of it, but if you're the president, you need to do what's best for everyone, not just for yourself. And I think that you have to realize that you can't just say no. I think there should be a little more steps taken before it's done, like maybe some sort of mandatory counseling, just to make sure that the person is completely aware and okay with what they're doing. Because they've done a lot of studies, and there's a high percentage of people who regret it and even have sometimes committed suicide because they regretted doing it. But there are reasons why it should be done, and to force someone to do something with their own body is you can't do that. And the religious argument to it is probably the biggest. But if this country is to truly have freedom of religion, you have to allow complete freedom of religion, and to deny someone having that done for religious reasons is a violation of their freedom of religion. So I think he needs to back down on that. I don't have any facts in front of me, but apparently a lot of places have gone without funding, family planning centers and such, and I don't think that that's right. They need to do something about that. So that's it for the political part of that. Now the next thing I want to do is a little bit random, and this is what I was telling you before about the hat. I have a bunch of random categories, and they're all on these pieces of paper, and I am going to draw them from this hat, which I don't know if you can see. It is a Legend of Zelda hat. So I will call this the Legend of the Zelda hat. And I'm going to pick 7. Again, I don't know why 7 seems to be the perfect number or whatever. And then, when I'm done with that, I'm going to switch the papers with these. Now I'm going to explain a little bit about what this random collection of papers is. You can all live in your bubble if you want, but I promise you, anybody who works in any kind of a service industry, food service, office service, any kind of service industry, you eventually develop some code names for some of your regular customers. And some of them are not very flattering, but the people who work in the same place know who you're talking about when you reference these. Like right off the top of my head, I have some very insulting ones, such as frequent urination for people that I've dealt with. Some that could go either way, you don't know what it means, such as 1,000 wet pussies. I'll probably tell you about him one day, or maybe even today, if that's the one that I draw out. And some actually seem complimentary. I'll be honest, I can't think of any complimentary ones off the top of my head right now. But trust me, there are some of those too. So I jotted down a few of the notable people that I remember over the years. And I'm going to pick one of them to talk about. Believe it or not, though, yeah, every day you deal with someone that pisses you off. But I'm talking about people that are so frequent that you actually give them special nicknames. And I'm happy to say it's impossible to do one of those a show because I'll run out of them quick. There's not super many of them. But we'll get to that. So, I'm going to pick the first one out of the hat now. And the rule of this, again, I'm making up the rules as I go along. I have to talk for it for at least 60 seconds. So whatever I pull out of this hat, no matter how entertaining or stupid or how much I know or don't know about it, I have to find a way to talk about it for 60 seconds. And the show is not fancy enough yet to have an on-screen timer. Maybe one day. So I'm trusting you to keep track of the time and let me know if I fail. But I won't fail because I know what I'm doing. All right, so the first one. These are just random things. Some I jotted down, some someone else jotted down. Some I got from the internet by typing one letter into Google and seeing what propagated and just picking that. All right. The first one is The Mandalorian. Okay. Mandalorian. Good timing on this one because I finally watched the first 3 episodes earlier this week. And I have to be completely honest with you. I don't know what the fuck all the hype is about. I actually had time to watch more episodes. I was like, I can't do this anymore. 3 episodes was enough. I am a big Star Wars fan. And as much as it sucked, I've even been able to sit through The Last Jedi twice. As bad of a movie as that was, all things considered, I've managed to watch it twice. The Mandalorian, I have no interest in ever watching again. I'm going to finish the season at some point just to get it out of the way, but maybe I don't even watch the second season. I have not heard one bad thing about this show, and I found it so boring. When it opened up, I was like, okay, cool, this is a little bit different. It's a little way of looking at it. I don't know, I just felt like nothing happened in it. I don't like the background sound. There's some weird sound in the background that sounds like a chime or something. And I don't find it engaging. I didn't find it enthralling. It actually annoyed the shit out of me. So again, you like what you like, but I don't understand how I haven't heard anything bad about this show. It was terrible. And I'm going to give you a little bonus right here because while I'm talking about The Mandalorian, I hope anybody who refers to that little fucking green thing as Baby Yoda can eat shit. It creates confusion. It is not Baby Yoda. Yes, it's of the same race, but it's not Yoda. Yoda didn't have a child. Yoda didn't go back in time and make himself into a baby. Yoda is Yoda, and Yoda is actually kind of a cool character. Don't mess with Yoda. Call it the child. That's what it's actually called. I actually sell these things called pop sockets where I work. And the owner accidentally ordered them. And the official name of it is The Child. It's not Baby Yoda. Don't call it Baby Yoda. Thank you. Second topic. Hulk Hogan. Okay. I grew up quite a huge Hulk Hogan fan, and I am still to this day, I will watch any old wrestling show, back when it was called the WWF, as it should still be called today. Hulk Hogan was the man. He was my hero growing up. This is not something hard for me to talk about. You know, one of my best friends, he loves Superman, everything about Superman. I think Superman's a little bit dorky, but then if you look at the way Hulk Hogan was, he was pretty dorky too, so I can't judge. But, you know, everyone had their heroes growing up. For me, it was Hulk Hogan. I had the action figures. Hulk Hogan just beat the shit out of everybody. I would even have action figures from other things. I remember I had this little swamp thing, and they would just come in, and I'd actually put them in my old wrestling ring, and I'd just feed them to Hogan. Hogan, I'd actually give them powers. Swamp Thing would be shooting his hands out. He'd have all these special powers, but at the end of the day, they couldn't beat Hulk Hogan. He was the man. What's happened to him over the years is kind of sad. You know, he had the sex tape released and the racist comment. Forgive me, I don't think that what he said was that bad, but it wasn't good either. I can't completely defend it. And the best part, and by best, of course, I mean the worst, is when, you know, I think he was suspended for 3 years from being able to show up on WWE television, and when he came back, he actually gave like an apology backstage, particularly to the African American wrestlers for what he said, but he didn't actually really apologize for what he said. It was basically explaining that you need to be careful because you never know who's listening and who's recording you. So his idea of apologizing for his racist remarks was to say you have to watch out and be careful what you say. So it wasn't a real heartfelt apology, and I think the Hulkster could have done better there, especially someone known for talking on the mic as well as he is. But the last thing I heard about Hogan is that he's having surgery, and he's trying to convince the owner of WWE, Vince McMahon, to do one last match. I think that would be a really bad idea. I guess if he's just going to stand there and swing his arms like he used to, that's fine. But I think at his age, with the way his body is barely put together, if he tries to drop a leg, I think his leg is just going to pop right off, and that would be a really bad idea. But I'm still a fan of you, Hulkster. All right, number 3. Valentine's Day. Yes, I don't know when this is going to air, but Valentine's Day was about 2 weeks ago. Excuse me, it was last week. I don't like Valentine's Day. I just don't like it. And right off the bat, whenever somebody says they don't like Valentine's Day, you always have someone saying, "You just said that because you're single." No. I can tell you from personal experience that I've actually been dating someone on Valentine's Day. And while I did get to enjoy the perks associated with that, even with that being the case, I didn't like it. It puts pressure on you on a day that you shouldn't try to commercialize love. And there are actually single people out there who don't understand that it's okay to be single, because it really is. You need to be complete with yourself first before you can be with somebody else. Because if you're only complete because you're with someone else, then you're not really self-reliant. And God forbid anything happens to that person, or that person decides to leave you, then you're a complete fucking mess. But if you're true to yourself and a complete person all on your own, that puts you in the best position to actually be in a relationship. But there are a lot of people, quite a lot actually, who don't understand that basic concept, and they do get very upset on Valentine's Day. It kind of rubs in their face that they're alone. And it's also overly commercial for the people who are. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, if you really care about the person, you show them you care for $20, but if you really care, you'll spend that extra $9.95 plus tax, and then they'll really know. That's stupid. If you're gonna, the closest thing to Valentine's Day I think people should do is that each couple should set a special day that's maybe special to them. Maybe the anniversary of the day they met, maybe the anniversary of their first date, and celebrate it then. Because then way it's a little more intimate. You know, you're celebrating a day of love with the person that you love. That's not the same day that everybody else celebrates it. I just think it's a forced day. You know, maybe you're not feeling lovey-dovey that day. Maybe you just had an argument. You never know what's going to happen. And to try to force a day of love, I just, it's stupid. I don't like it. I hate it. And I think it should be removed from the calendar. All right. Number 4. Global warming. I touched on that one before when I was talking about President Trump. Well, I guess there's definitely more I could say about it. I don't think anybody can look at the weather patterns of the world and say definitively that global warming doesn't exist. Again, I think I touched on this on a previous show. The only argument I've ever heard anyone use is it's not an exact science. What the fuck does that even mean? It's not an exact... No, is anything an exact science? If it was exact, we wouldn't need to keep doing research and keep doing procedures and keep trying to find things out. Obviously, something is going on, and just because we haven't figured out the correct way to fix it yet doesn't mean that it's something that should be ignored. I can tell you, I'm in the tri-state area, the New York, New Jersey area, and just from my experience alone, I can tell you the weather has been really weird this year. It snowed maybe twice, definitely once, but maybe twice all winter, and there was hardly any accumulation. We had one fluke weekend in January where it was actually 60, 65 degrees. It felt like spring. I was outside on my deck drinking iced coffee. And the thing is you try to make the most of whatever happens, but I've had so many people talking about, oh, this is so great, this weather's great, blah, 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 I don't have to shovel. Think about what this means. You're saying with a smile on your face that this is all great and wonderful. You're gonna fucking die. We're all gonna die because of whatever's going on. It's not normal to have a 65-degree day in the middle of January. We have had very few cold days this winter, and something is very wrong with that, and I promise you, we're all gonna pay for that in the long run. I will say this, I've noticed a lot more thunderstorms over the summer. Again, I know it's not an exact science, but I promise you there's a correlation there. And those thunderstorms, people get fucking hurt. Though I don't think it's going to be quite a day after tomorrow type thing, although that was a good movie, kept you in suspense and yada, but I think that's a bit of an exaggeration, but something similar is definitely happening, and we need to recognize that and possibly do something about it. The only thing that really irks me though is we get a lot of people in this country who want to do right, and that's great. I support your cause, but the problem is if just one country does it, it's not enough. You know, they're fucking everything up over in China, and I'm not even talking about the coronavirus, which I'm not getting into right now. But just, you know, with everything they're doing with the factories, the pollution, they have less regulations over there, so they're allowed to get away with more. And they're doing more damage than us. So if we somehow magically just stop everything that we're doing, it's only going to be a small percentage of fixing the problem because they're still screwing everything up. All the countries have to get together and figure something out in order for this to work. Meanwhile, over here, I now can't use regular plastic bags because they've been banned, or regular plastic straws. I have to use these fucking paper straws, which I'm sorry, again, I get the idea behind them, but that just makes drinking anything thick, like a milkshake or a smoothie, that much more difficult, because it falls apart. It's not meant to be used for that. But we're doing our part. God bless America.
It's not a storm, you know what I mean?
All right, number 5. And I'm starting to think maybe I picked too many. But
You could be like, yo,
let's see.
beautiful mind, freestyle one night. Boom.
Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber. Okay. Justin Bieber. I really don't know much about his music. I've heard a few of his songs. Nothing particularly blew me out of the water. I think he's just an example of someone who is popular, but not because he's actually a great singer, because people think that he's attractive. I will say this though, the songs that I've heard, he can carry a tune. I'm not taking that away from him. But I truly don't think he would be as popular as he is if people didn't find him so attractive. But hey, more power to him. He's an example of someone who was discovered and became super huge. But I saw something a few weeks ago, and like, it's hard to feel sorry for someone who's got it made like he does, but it was one of the sadder things that I've seen. I guess he disappeared from the limelight for a while because he was diagnosed with Lyme disease, and that's sad. I hope he gets well. I wouldn't wish that on. Anyway, he hasn't done anything to piss me off, but he was practically begging people to buy his latest single. I mean, begging people on social media. I think it was on Twitter where I saw it. And he's like, I need a #1 hit. I really need a #1 hit. Please buy it. You know, someone like that who you know is loaded and pretty much made. He could probably retire right now and not want for anything for the rest of his life. Begging people to keep him relevant. That's sad. That's sad. I hope he gets his shit together. I'm sure that was more than 60 seconds. So I'm moving on to the next one because I really don't know much about it. Wood. Wood. I suppose that could mean different things. I'm going to choose to go with the actual wood, as in lumber. Wood is a great thing. It's a building block of life. Let me tell you something about wood, though. I don't understand people's fascination with it in their home. I know that there's a place I go all the time. They used to have carpeted floors, and I found that comfortable. I know they can kind of be a bitch to clean or whatever, but there's something homey about carpeted floors. I literally would fall asleep on their floor. You know, I'd stay there so late, and I would be comfortable. And then they decided to upgrade, and I use that term loosely, and get hardwood floors. And I'm sorry, but they're not comfortable. They're more of a strain on your feet. You know, walking around long enough, your feet actually start to hurt. It's not comfortable at all. I guess it's easier to clean, but I'm sorry, I just don't see the advantage of having hardwood floors. I'm also a little bitter about hardwood floors because the person who lives underneath me decided they were going to get hardwood floors. They upgraded. Motherfuckers hadn't moved in yet, so they weren't there to deal with whatever the hell they put over it. I get polyurethane or whatever the fuck it's called. It's just created this invisible gas that was coming up, and I smelled it in my apartment. And I got this horrible headache. And this was in November, and back then it was actually cold in November like it was supposed to be. This was like 10 years ago. And I was sleeping with like 3 blankets on me in front of an open window, shivering because it was so cold outside, just to try to get fresh air from the polyurethane fumes that were coming up from underneath me. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of hardwood floors. I could understand having 1 or 2 rooms with them, but to have the whole house with it, I just think bedrooms should have carpets. It's more comfortable. That's my thing. All right, we're gonna do one more. One more. President Nixon. I believe he was called Tricky Dick. I'm sure he loved that nickname. President Nixon. President Nixon. All right. Well, President Nixon is the only... Actually, I'll tell you what. President Nixon is a great thing to pull because of the recent impeachment of President Trump. President Nixon is, in my opinion, proof that a president will never actually be removed from office. And I'll tell you why. Because whenever a president is impeached, you kind of know what's going to happen. Whether the whole trial, the judge, the witnesses, it's all a waste of time. You can call every impeachment from the beginning. And the first few presidents that were impeached, they knew they weren't going to be found guilty. They didn't sweat it. They went through the process. And guess what? They were acquitted. President Nixon was the only president in history who was pretty much caught red-handed. I mean, even his own party could not side with him, and he knew it. And some of you are like, but Trump was caught red-handed. No, he wasn't. They proved, I suppose, a few possible, well, I don't know if that was the right thing to do, but I don't know that it was wrong. They didn't prove anything. I promise you, Republicans have gone against Trump before. If I'm not mistaken, Paul Ryan stepped down as Speaker of the House because he publicly disagreed with Trump being the president. I don't remember exactly the details, but he stepped down for a reason. Nixon, again, was the only president who was caught hook, line, and sinker. And guess what? He resigned because he knew he was going to be removed from office. I'm telling you now, a president will never be removed from office. He will either be found not guilty or he will remove himself and resign. Once it goes through the trial phase, no one is going to remove a president from office because no president is that stupid to stay in it if he knows he's going to be found guilty. So again, the impeachment was a complete waste of time. I am proud to say that I called from the very beginning that he was going to be acquitted, not because he's such a great, wonderful guy, but because he just didn't do anything to warrant being acquitted. I also said at the same time that he was going to win the 2020 election. And again, I'm not saying this as a Trump fanboy. I'm not a Trump fanboy. I like him more than I like other presidential candidates right now. But I cannot completely get behind him, or anyone for that matter. He's just the one that I hate the least right now. Yes, I do think, just based on what I've seen, that he is going to win election. All right, so that was the 7th topic from Legend of the Zelda Hat. And now let me separate these because I don't want these to be reused in the future. I am going to dump out the remaining ones here, which I will save for another show. And I am going to replace it with the special customer. Again, there aren't a significant amount of these, so I'm only doing one. These I all did. There's nothing really random about this. This is just people that I know. All right. The Pride of India. Okay, all right. I remember the Pride of India. I'm gonna get accused of being racist for this one, but whatever. It happened. I had to deal with it. Now you have to deal with it too. I remember her name, but I'm not gonna say it. It's not fair. When you deal with people regularly, you kind of try to isolate the bad ones, or not isolate. I mean, you want them to come when other people are there, because it's just human nature that if the store is crowded, you're not really going to want to stay longer. Of course, the Pride of India came when we were completely dead. She opened the door, and let me tell you something. I'm not just saying this to save face. I'm being honest. I have seen some Indian dances. I have seen Indian people in traditional Indian garb. It's a beautiful culture. It really is. The dresses they wear, they're so colorful. They have the beads, they have the flowers. It is a beautiful culture, and I do enjoy seeing it. But I don't know if you remember, a few years ago, Apple came out with a cheaper version of the iPhone. It was like this ugly lime green thing, but it was less than half the price of the regular iPhone. So if you were being frugal or you were on the poorer side, you didn't need to have $500 to buy the latest iPhone. You could get a brand new, cheaper version of it that had lesser. If you don't have to remember. Trust me, that was the thing. The lime green iPhone. What I can best describe the Pride of India's outfit that day was the lime green version of Indian garb. It was gaudy. There was nothing pretty about it. I swear I'm not making this up. I think it might have actually been green, now that I think about it. But she came in. She walked up. Again, forgive me. She had the heavy accent. Hey, how are you? And she came up, and I immediately smelled her. I don't know what the hell was going on there, but this woman fucking reeked. And forgive me, again, I don't know what it is, but there is something about Indian culture that there's a higher percentage of them that tend to reek. I don't know why. I hope you're not offended if you're watching this and you're Indian, because I'm sure you've had to deal with it too. And if you can offer an explanation for it, please do in the comments below, and not, fuck you, you racist white guy. It's just based on my experience. I'm not making this up. I've heard a few theories. Some don't make sense to me. One of them said that it was against their typical religion to wear deodorant. I don't think that's true. That doesn't make sense. I don't know why deodorant would be against the religion. If it is, please let me know. But the only one that I heard that kind of made sense, and I know because I have eaten Indian food before, is their food tends to be extremely spicy. And I think it causes them to sweat a little more, so that may cause, I don't know. But I tell you now, without apology or remorse, this woman fucking reeked. It was horrible BO. And she wanted to print things. She wanted me to print things for her. And here's the best part, and by best I mean the worst. She wanted to show me what it was that she wanted printed. So I had to pull up all the stuff, and she was getting real up next to me. I want you to do this one, and I want you to do this one. And I had to keep turning around because I was legitimately going to gag. And here's where I've kind of changed a little bit on that regard, because I was the beacon of customer service and that day and politeness. I think that if you smell, if you reek, why should I worry about being polite and not offending you when you have no problem offending me with your fucking odor? I get that sometimes we don't always smell our best, but for someone like that to come in smelling as bad as she did, there is no excuse for that. None whatsoever. And she's also, I don't know what was wrong with her, but she had a handler. Yes, that was the word that was used, a handler. So I don't know what her story was. Maybe she had money. But this is something that I had to deal with. And it's not something that I should ever have had to have dealt with, but I did. And I kid you not, when she finally left, she was there for like a half hour. Other people had come in, and I lost business that day because people left the store because they couldn't stand the smell. I had to stay there. They didn't. And the store smelled for, I would say, a good hour after she left. Like, for her to leave a cloud of stench there is no excuse for that. And no amount of Febreze was going to cover that up until it was ready to be gone. And I'm grateful that I haven't seen her in a while. But yes, I will, even if I never see her again, I will never fully forget the smell and the frustration that I had to deal with the day that I dealt with the Pride of India. Okay, now that's it for that. I jotted a couple things down in case I forgot. Yes. I have a little problem. I am in love with a show called Gallivant. It was a show that was on maybe 10 years ago. It was clever. It was different. It was unique. It was like a medieval musical. and it was stupid. I would say it was on a Monty Python-ish type of humor, but I would never categorize it with that because Monty Python was in a class all of his own. The show was fucking hilarious. I'm watching it again. I'm going through some things that I don't want to talk about now, but I will tell you that I sat down in a really, really sad, upset mood. I turned this show on, and I just completely forgot what I was upset about. The show is hilarious. I just don't understand why it didn't last more than 2 seasons. If you have never watched this show, it is on Netflix now. Because of the ratings that it would only last 2 seasons, I don't know how much longer it's going to be on Netflix. But you owe it to yourself to at least check it out. It starts with an extremely catchy opening song that kind of gets stuck in your head. And I guess it's not for everyone, but I think a lot of people just didn't give it a shot. And it pisses me off that this show, which I thought was kind of catered to me, didn't last longer. And there really were no big notable people in it. It wasn't that kind of show. The only person that you might have recognized was Timothy Osmondson. He was in the show Psych, which is another really fucking funny show, at least the first 4 seasons. I'm excited. They're doing a movie, like a what do you call that? A reunion show for like 2 hours. I'm looking forward to that. But again, Gallivant was really funny, great show. I loved it to pieces. If you never saw it, you owe it to yourself to at least check it out. Trust me, it's worth it. And I want to give a shout out to someone who I don't even know. In previous episodes, I have discussed how much I couldn't stand Amazon customers. And I am smart enough to never put anything like this in my store. But someone at another store had what I'm going to say is the balls to actually post this picture in their store. I hope you can see it. Okay. It is a photo of a zombie. I believe it's from Plants vs. Zombies, but I'm not sure. I never really played that game. Pushing a shopping cart of Amazon items. And instead of saying brains, 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 it's saying returns, returns, returns. Whoever had the balls to do that, I want you to know that I, Kaotic Keith, have the utmost respect for you. And if you happen to see this, please let me know so I can personally thank you, because I saw that at a time when I was having a particularly bad day, and that cracked me up. And I know you had to take it down, the corporate, hounded you about it, but I want you to know that I saw it, and I am a fan of yours, and I support what you did. Well, I have to admit I'm a little surprised. I didn't think I'd be able to even get close to the hour mark here by myself. See, I told you we didn't need Kevin. But I don't know how many people are going to see this. Please let me know if you liked anything that I did. If you didn't like something that I did, give me suggestions. As far as I know, the special customer and the names out of a hat is something that I'm probably going to want to keep doing. I'll probably bring back the 3 things that I hate. It's a little weird doing that without the 3 things that I love to counter it, but maybe I'll do both. And yeah, so let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. Thank you for joining me on this show. I hope this is the start of a new beginning and that we're going to have a lot of fun together. And I don't know what else to say, but remember what I always say. Shit happens, and then you flush. Oh, and I'm going to add something this time. You want to know why everybody shits? Because everybody is full of shit. Hope you enjoyed the show. I'll see you next time.